In this lesson, we'll work with the SQL delete statement to remove records from our database. We can see an example of the end result here in our web browser. All the records in the database are outputted using a select statement. We've outputted all the columns in the users table except for date. So we have ID, first name, last name, and email. Notice that all the records are organized into a table. Next to each record, we have a delete button. When the delete button is pressed, I'm going to click the delete button for the record with ID 8. So before I do, in the users table, we can see that's this record over here, the third one, with the name Jane Mill. So when I press the delete button here, I get a success message saying the record was deleted successfully, and we can confirm that the record is no longer there when I press the refresh button. We can see that that record has been deleted from the database. And so that's the purpose of this lesson. So to begin, create a file and save it in your PHP lessons folder. Save the file as delete.php. Now we'll go through the delete.php script so you can see how it works. First, we create our database connection. Next, we create an SQL select statement to select the ID, first name, last name, and email from the users table. Next, we execute the SQL statement and store the results in the result variable. Okay, so there's really nothing new here. We've done all this before. Now, here we close off our PHP script because we're going to create an opening table element and define some attributes for the table. So remember that all the records are stored inside of a table. So what we're doing is creating that table. And so the table has a width of 300 pixels, border of 1, cell spacing of 1, and cell padding of 1. The reason we've closed off this PHP script is because it's easier doing it this way rather than nesting large blocks of HTML code inside an echo statement. So if we close off the PHP script, we can create some HTML code. Okay, so our web browser can understand HTML code outside of the PHP script. Now inside our open and close table tag, we have another PHP script here. Now this script states if the number of rows inside the table is greater than 0, then fetch each row. Okay, and we're fetching each row using our while loop. So we've closed off this script now as well because we're going back to HTML. This block of HTML code creates a table row with 3 columns for each record. And remember, it's inside the while loop, so this table row with 3 columns is going to be created for each record, and it's going to keep looping until there are no more records left in the database. Okay, so this block of code pertains to a single row with 3 columns, and then that just keeps looping over and over until the end. The values of each record are then stored in the table cells corresponding to their label. So the labels are ID, first name, last name, and email. And we can see inside the second column of each row, we have the ID, which comes from the ID row inside our users table. So it's an echo statement, and it just outputs the ID number. Now in the third column, we have a delete button. And the delete button contains a link to a file called deluser.php. A variable called ID is also passed along in the URL, and this variable contains the ID number of each record. So if we hover our mouse over the delete button, look at the bottom of the web browser and you can see that the link is changing, or the ID number in the link is changing for each record. Okay, and that you're going to see the importance of that in just a second. Okay, and the remaining parts of this HTML code are just outputting each value inside the user's table. So first name, last name, and email. So back to the delete button. When we click the delete button, we pass along a variable ID to this page. Okay, so this is a new PHP page. It's called deluser.php. So if you're following along here, you'll need to create this file as well. And the file starts with a database connection. Next, we have a variable called ID, and this variable stores the value of the ID we passed along in the URL when the delete button was clicked. So look, when I click the delete button here, look at our URL, deluser.php, question mark, and then the data we're trying to pass along. So we're passing along a variable called ID, and this contains the value of the ID pertaining to this record. Next, we create a SQL delete statement. Okay, and that's what the delete statement looks like. The delete statement deletes the record from table users where the ID equals the value in the ID variable. So we can see the ID for this record is 9. If I were to click delete, it deletes record with the ID 9 from our users table. And so that's how the SQL delete statement works. And to test out your script, just type in the URL on your local host to the delete.php file. Okay, and then you can start deleting records. So record deleted successfully. Now if you click the back button and refresh the page, you should see that record disappears. So you can see that it is working.